BC.Game has spent well over $5 million trying to enter the counterstrike scene. They've bought s1mples, Electronic, a top 20 VRS score, and even offered Donk 10 million at one point. But all of that spending has given them zero results. Disappointing exits in tier 1 tournaments, losing to teams not even in the top 100, and whatever the hell this is.
I don't know what I expected. They're fucking animals. Actually disgusting.
If you thought the Falcons spending disaster was bad, I don't think you understand the depth of Project BC.Game. Ad time. As you know, Valve recently introduced the Steam trade protection system, meaning all trades can now be cancelled within 7 days. But what if I told you don't have to wait 7 days? Skin.Land is back and you can cash out instantly. And this is why pros choose Skin.Land, as they recently became the official partner of Team Vitality. Just insert your trade URL, select skins to sell, enter your email, and choose one of the many withdrawal methods. Or you can buy a different skin from their marketplace with prices way lower than Steam. The CS market recently crashed, so now is the perfect time to buy the dip. There are also many ways to deposit, and the best part is that you can get $10 free today by selling over $100 in skins and entering my promo code TWIST. So let's go back to early 2025, where BC.Game was active in Counter-Strike, but not relevant at the highest level. Peaking at number 24 in the VRS, they cycled through multiple international lineups featuring experienced names like Guardian, Nexa, and Jakem. And they even had Joel at one point. A match fixer playing for a sportsbook org. I mean, the jokes really do write themselves. Anyways, it didn't seem like BC.Game had a clear vision, results were inconsistent, and the team remained outside the tier 1. And then, everything changed on the 28th of July, 2025.
BC.Game have announced that they have completed the surprise signing of s1mples on a permanent transfer from Navi.
After nearly a decade of s1mples dominating tier 1, this move shocked the scene. Although he hadn't played for a while, it just felt illogical to see him on a random team. But s1mples was confident. One wise man said, "If you want to come back on tier 1 scene, you need to join a tier 3 team." But although this move made very little sense at the time, after 2 months of s1mples frying everyone in tier 3 as a side job, because the majority of his time was actually spent on Dota, a reason to take this project more seriously arrived.
BC.Game has announced the sign of Electronic from VP's bench. Moves brings a reunion between Electronic and s1mples, obviously.
The most dominant duo in Counter-Strike was Reunited. For the first time, BC.Game had something that looked like a foundation. 2 proven tier 1 stars with a championship experience, but the roster was not yet complete.
They need maybe 1 or 2 lineup changes to be really competitive.
With the 2-star players sorted, BC.Game was ready to start moving up the VRS. The way how most teams do it is by developing young talents, grinding regional tournaments, and then spending months refining their systems before even becoming contenders.
All of these situations are brokey situations.
You have to understand that just in 2025 alone, BC.Game's, the company's revenue was well in the 8 digits. So since they literally had the unlimited money glitch, the rules most teams play by just didn't apply to them. Don't they start to remind you of anyone? They actually had the exact same approach as Falcons. Just buy a top rank core to hack the VRS system, then throw in a bunch of superstars and hey, they'll figure it out. So in pursuit of finding that core, their first highly strategical chess move was to try and buy Donk.
Like the craziest one so far was that they tried to go to Spirits to buy the entire team or core, which was funny.
What?
Yeah, and I'm not joking about that.
And when that didn't work, they reportedly gave the same offer to FaZe and some other tier 1 teams. They were basically waving millions under everyone's noses and just trying to see who caves. And that team was SAW. In early January, they signed Mutirus, Crazy, and Aragorn for reported $2.5 million. And if we add this to the speculated $500k they paid for s1mples buyout, and his 130k monthly salary on top, plus community speculation for what Electronic's signing in salary is, the total cost to assemble this team reaches around $4 million. Oh, and Electronic needs a helicopter ride every month for some reason. Anyways, you get the point. The super team is now complete. They now have superstar firepower, a pre-existing tactical core, and a top 30 VRS ranking. They should be set for success. But Counter-Strike has always punished shortcuts. So on January 21st, they entered the IEM Rio closed qualifier. They are undoubtedly a top 5 team at the event, and their first game is against Ursa, which is the lowest ranked team at the tournament and wasn't even supposed to be there, coming in as a last-minute replacement. Yeah, guess what happens? Although both maps are super close, BC.Game lose 0-2 and get absolutely dragged on social media. As soon as I saw this roster, I knew it was never going to work. I don't know how anyone expected anything but failure. LOL. Look, although the sentiment is understandable, this is just one bad loss. And we've seen crazy roster moves like this actually working out with time, so their next chance to prove themselves will be in the lower bracket against Nemesis. That has kind of always been floating around the top 50. Before I reveal the score, I'll reveal the stats. At the end of the series, s1mples posted a 1.57 rating, but unfortunately it's a bit of a throwback to his Navi days. Because this is the full scoreboard, and this is the final score. So exiting this tournament, BC.Game gets pretty much beaten by technically a much worse opposition. And if you watch any of the maps, I mean, it just feels like a Face-It solo queue lobby. The chemistry is just not there. But remember I told you that BC.Game bought the SAW core for VRS points? Well, those points come with some invites. And only a week later, BC.Game will have their biggest test yet. IEM Kraków 2026. s1mples return to Tier 1. And we all know under pressure, he creates diamonds. So their first game is against Legacy. This is a solid Brazilian roster that I would call the gatekeepers to Tier 1, and the stream has a crazy amount of people just waiting for s1mples' return, like the air is charged with excitement. Unfortunately, BC.Game get absolutely destroyed in the first half, and people are already calling this new roster a joke. But wait. BC.Game starts to play as a team. s1mples is hitting his shots, and somehow, some way, they push overtime. This allows them to actually win overpass, and running off the high of the comeback, Inferno is an absolute walk in the park, having the most poetic ending possible, a simple 1v4 to secure the 13-1 dub. Although inconsistent, BC.Game looks dangerous, but this is where things start going downhill. They get unlucky seeding, having to take on Vitality in their first Stage 2 game, and that's just an opponent they're not ready for yet. And then their elimination game is against FaZe, where the best opera in Counter-Strike history, no, this one, decides it's time to send BC.Game home. Exiting Krakco, it's clear that BC.Game have a very low floor, and also a high ceiling, and while everyone expected them to just become regular tier 1.5-ish contenders, these last few months have been extremely difficult. In the last 2 months since Krakow, BC.Game has cemented themselves as a solid tier 3 team, worth 4 million. They've lost to teams like Gamer Legion, Ecstatic, Alliance, and Ill Will twice, and recently in an 11-13 loss to Cadian and company, we witnessed one of the worst 1v1s in a while. So while you enjoy it, I'll just read you this HLTV comment that perfectly summarizes the current situation. No one is checking any corners or positions, rounds against ecos are taken for granted, aim looks like they don't play outside of prac, they seem to have no real protocols when entering or executing, their spacing is off, trading is horrible, there's just straight up no team play. Not within the 3 Portuguese, not within the 5 wholesome, they just look really, really bad.
Yeah.
So as you can see, we can point to a lot of different reasons why this project is failing, but I think they all have the same root cause. And that's this rather despicable idea that you can just solve Counter-Strike by having the most money. BC.Game and Falcons both suffer from this inflated sense of worth where the money has afforded them superstar players that are great individually, But Counter-Strike is so much more than the sum of its parts, and chemistry is just not something you can buy. And look, I know you'll say, but we just need to give them a bit more time. Well, let's look at the current situation. They've spent 4 million on the current roster, with the total probably going over 5 if we consider the previous iterations, and this type of money should almost instantly get you a top 10 contender. Instead, we have BC.Game, whose peak was the same day the Portuguese core joined, and since then they've been drifting down to the bottom of the best 50 teams, recently withdrawing from the Rock Journey tournament, which pretty much guarantees they don't make it to the major. Now, there is some speculation that this withdrawal could mean they're trying to acquire a new core, but it just seems like a futile effort. Until BC.Game are willing to put in the hard work and not just shove money at every problem, the game of Counter-Strike will not be solved.